I do.
Do I have a phone number for her? I did call her. Let me see.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. We are waiting for one more guest, but I'm so excited that you all are with us. We will get started in just a moment.
Hey.
Hey. And there are some of you I haven't seen for a while, so it's really great to see you.
Wait a second. Wait.
I hear you, Rosie.
Here we go. Hold on. I can text her.
I just did too, Donna.
You did?
Yeah, I found her number.
Okay. I did too just now.
Well, and she has everything. So sorry, folks. We are making sure that our other guest of honor is good to go.
You can see me and hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, there you are. You're Kelvin. I keep forgetting you're Kelvin.
There you
That
are.
happened before.
I was just about to ask who was Calvin's
Who
iPad
is that
for
person?
attendance purposes.
Okay.
We share an iPad.
Understood. I keep thinking of like Calvin and Hobbes and stuff. I don't know.
Well, yeah, he's fun too.
He is fun. He is fun. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. I believe people will be kind of trickling in. So welcome everyone to sort of our midpoint of our trail trainings. I'm so happy that you all are with us and that you can be still participating. I know there's a lot of individuals that are going through a lot right now, whether it be personal stress or health, mental health, the holidays. Sometimes that all goes together. But I'm really grateful that you all are here with us today. As you know, I think, this today is really focusing in on building relationships with change makers, especially your legislators. And for that reason, we have the privilege of having two guest speakers. We have Mari Gingrich and we have Donna Malpezzi. And I have worked with these two women previously, and it's been a real privilege to work with them. So before I turn it over to them, I'm going to give you a little history on both of them. So Donna is the current principal of DMM Consulting, which provides legal advice and strategic counsel for primarily nonprofit organizations seeking to develop policy change at the executive and legislative levels. Previously served as chief legal counsel to the Pennsylvania Senate Majority Caucus and 3 majority leaders over nearly 3 decades. She advised on strategy, major policy decisions, and legislative initiatives. And then our other guest, Mari Gingrich, is another wonderful friend, an ally of mine that we have worked with on disability employment work previously. And she was elected to represent Lebanon County, 101st District in Pennsylvania in November of 2002. She is a founding member of the Lebanon County Commission for Women, and she was as a former representative, she was nominated to serve on multiple committees, including the chairman of the Labor and Industry Committee, and then held leadership positions in appropriations, aging and older adults, among multiple other committees. So I'm really excited to have both of these wonderful women on this and for taking your time to be with us. And so before we begin, we have talked about really sharing our story, sharing it to make change, sharing it to move policies forward. And now we're going to start talking and looking at how do we develop those relationships with our legislators, which personally I believe is one of the most important foundational pieces of truly making changes at a legislative level. So I'm going to ask that all the participants except Representative Gingrich and Donna, I would ask you guys to turn your cameras off so we can highlight them. And I'm going to turn it over to you, ladies.
Okay. Thank you, Josie. I am going to start us off this evening and talk about something I guess I like to call Messaging Fundamentals 101. It's kind of, I wasn't expecting everyone to turn their camera off, so I feel I feel like we really are on stage here, Maury. So I hope we do
Talking to each other.
right. I hope we do a good job. Anyway, so you know, it sounds really elementary, but you know, in the 30 years, I guess that I was there in Harrisburg, you know, I would find that people didn't always follow, you know, kind of these basic precepts. So when Josie asked us to speak tonight, I thought, you know, we should really cover these kind of basic rules. So one of the first things you need to think about before you come in to speak to your legislator is to really know your issue. You need to do your research before you come in and know everything there is to know about your issue. Has it been, if it's a piece of legislation, has similar legislation been adopted in other states? Does the legislation have a fiscal impact or a cost to the Commonwealth? Are there negative aspects to the legislation? Is there opposition to the legislation? And what is that opposition? Because it's probably better for you to frame that opposition than it is to let whoever's opposed to your legislation come in and frame it first, because you'll do a better job framing it than they will. You know, you'll put it in a better light than someone who might be opposed to whatever it is you're trying to do. The second thing is to hone your message and hone it again. Know what you want. Have a clear ask. If you want that legislator to co-sponsor your legislation, make that be your ask. If you want them to support moving the bill out of committee, make that be your ask. Be clear, be succinct, know what you want. They don't have a lot of time, so you can't really hem-haw around. You know, you don't be mean about it, but, you know, do get to that bottom line. Be consistent with your message. Don't go into one office and ask for one thing and then go into another office and ask for something else. Because what happens is that, you know, especially at the staff level, you know, those staff people will get together and they'll say, well, gee, this organization came in and they asked for this. And then another staff person will say, well, gee, they asked us for this. And so now there's just confusion. And there's so many issues that, you know, if an organization is confused about what it is they want, there's too many other issues competing for their time. They'll just move on because they'll just figure you really don't know what you want. And, you know, they'll move on to something else. Also, don't tell people what they want to hear. You know, they really need to know precisely what it is you're looking for. Be straightforward and be honest, because you'll be found out. And nobody likes to be betrayed with dishonesty with regard to an issue. Find something relatable in your message if you can. I know Maury's going to talk more about that. Bring someone from the legislative district if you can. That's always powerful. Don't bring glossy books, especially if you're looking for money from the legislature, because Generally, I think that falls on deaf ears. They figure if you have a glossy book, you don't need state money because you can afford to pay for stuff yourself. Finally, be pleasant. If the generally you'd make an appointment with the legislator before you go to visit them. But if for some reason the legislator can't see you, then they have to go into session or caucus. Meet with whoever will meet with you. If that's a secretary, a chief of staff, executive assistant, whoever it is, meet with them. Be happy that you get a chance to meet with them because they will share that message with the elected official. So there you go, Maury. I think that was 5 minutes or less.
Okay, wow. I didn't set my timer. So Donna, it's up to you to shut me off when the time comes. Thanks. I'm delighted to be here tonight with both Donna and Josie, two great gals, two great models for women in leadership that I worked with over the years, and I'm happy to work with again, especially on an issue as important as legislative advocacy, which over the decades as a legislator, I had plenty of opportunities to deal both formally and informally with different levels of advocacy and the many and diverse issues that were brought before us. So everything Donna told you is true. And I always operate by the 3 C's, especially when it comes to advocacy, and taking time to meet with a legislator to be effective is to be very clear, be very concise, but be very comprehensive on what your issue is. I always say start with your own legislator. Everyone should get to know their own legislator, because if they are not keen on your issue or educated on the issue, you're going to bring them to that point. But in addition to that, they know all the other legislators. They know which committees would be interested. They know what legislators can help you the most. So they're going to be a friend to you no matter which direction you're going. Make it a long-term investment. Know that when you're dealing in advocacy, it's not going to happen overnight. Nothing in the legislature does. The making an appointment is a great idea. That way I know I always allowed time then to spend with the individual or the group that was bringing their issue to my attention. I counted on them being timely, and I would advise you to be the same way, not just in the time you take to meet with the legislator, because they're very, very busy, of course, with a multitude of things. But if you want a bill introduced in a timely fashion, if a bill is ready to run that you want to support, or you really are opposed to, and you'd like a legislator to help you with that, that makes the timing critical as well. Also, Donna mentioned funding. If there's funding in the bill or the regulation or whatever issue you're looking at, make sure it fits in with a budget time frame so that your ask makes sense. So kind of keep those things in your mind. Do your homework on more than your bill or your initiative. By far, you better know it inside and out, and you better be able to explain it in a clear, understanding way to the average person. You may meet with a legislator, but you may meet with an aide whose responsibility it is, like the legislator, is to understand and bring that information to the legislator. So always make sure you're very clear on what your issue is and what you want them to know. But also do your homework on the legislators, not just your representative, although they can help you do that, or you can certainly look it up online. Find out the voting record of a legislator that you may be looking for your issue. Let me just give you an example. Before I left and retired a couple years ago, and Josie and I worked together on this issue. It ended up being passed as a bill and into law, and is now a statute in Pennsylvania, Act 26, if you want to look it up. But the relevancy of that is I worked with the disability community on that particular bill and issue. I worked with Josie. I worked with the #IWantToWork group. They were amazing. When it came to advocacy, they were not only organized, they knew exactly how to develop a long-term relationship so that when I met with them, I clearly understood what their effort was. I was the chairman of labor. I was the one that was going to be able to help them. They were very, very smart to come to me. It would have taken a lot longer had they gone to another legislator who had to really be educated and develop the interest in the engagement in the issues. So I would recommend that to you as well. Get to know your own legislator first. Ask them for help on your issue. Set time, if you can, ahead, and then respect the time of the legislator, because they're always going to be moving on to something else equally important in their mind, if not in your mind. Of course, yours is the most important. So make sure that you use your time wisely when you're with them. Follow up and do it in person. Make a phone call to thank them. Write a handwritten note. I know it's old-fashioned, whatever method you use, but make it personal, make it individual. If it's just an email that's pretty much a standard cookie cutter email, it will go into a data file that says for or against an issue. When you make it personal, it's something that hopefully the legislator is going to realize your passion and respect it as well. So I'm trying to think of the other. I think committee chairmen are important. If your issue is, and it worked in my case with the bill that I just used as an example, because I was a chairman of labor. I also had an interest in the issues. And by the way, since I retired, I'm now on the board for the ARC of Pennsylvania. So the disability issues are very important to me now as they were then. So we all grow together, and it's important that we respect what we can do for each other and that we understand the challenges that we all meet. So I think if we allow a little bit of time here for questions about more specifically how to meet or talk to a legislator or how to get the bill passed. It may not even be a bill. It might be a regulation or something you don't like that's in a bill, and we can help you create an amendment that will adapt that bill to meet the issue that you want to address. So there's many, many, many ways where the legislator can help you. So I don't know if Josie can pop back in and monitor some questions you may have.
Sure. So let me be the first one to ask a couple questions. And this is for either of you ladies. I wanted to know, when an individual, a self-advocate with a disability, comes in to your office, or, Donna, if you're working with one, what really was something that made you feel connected to the bill, to the issue at hand?
Well, I mean, I think Maury touched on it too. If there was something that I could personally relate to, whether there was something that had happened in my own family, or with a friend, or, something like that, and really for me, it was irrelevant because I was kind of a staff person, but if it happened for the person I work for, right? If it happened for my boss, for, whatever legislator I work for, that certainly made a difference, or someone in the office. So really those personally relatable types of things made a big impact on us.
Yeah, I totally agree. And certainly as a legislator, but I'm going to need to throw something in there that's a little more political. Legislators care about their voters, because that's how they get in office and that's how they stay in office. So if someone from my district came to me with an issue, I'm going to pay very close attention, because it was affecting the people that I represent. And in addition to that, generally what they came to me was something very, very good for a lot of people. Might be something great, might be something small. We lived in the same area. They're voters that worked with me, and they came up with issues that we all cared about. So a number of my bills over the years came out of my own district, and people who had needs that weren't recognized that they brought to me. So it's a little bit of the geography and then personal connection. And don't ever forget that legislators care about their voters, and they do care about how their voters see them. So you need to present it in a very positive way for them, for the legislator, so that whatever they're working with you on is going to be something they feel good about, and they'll be able to promote right along with you.
That's true, Maury. Constituent issues, constituent matters are very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful.
And when a individual, whether it was a person with disability or someone else, what turned you on or off to listening to them? You mentioned, obviously constituent. You also mentioned finding an issue that you could relate to. Were there certain ways of people that came in that did this or that either, you kind of were like, okay, moving on, or that you really connected to?
Let me start there. Being a legislator and knowing the impact on my time, because there was an awful lot to do every single day on very important issues. I will go back to my 3 C's. I count on people to be very clear, to be very concise and comprehensive in a way that I'm going to catch on immediately to what they need or what they want. So the only thing that would drive me like kind of crazy is if I didn't know what their message was and I didn't know what they wanted. And, I wanted to connect, but they weren't giving me what I needed to really connect with, something that we could move forward on. Honestly, that's the only thing that would put me off, and I'd have to struggle longer than they needed or I needed.
Got it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please, either if you're able to type them, please submit any questions in the chat box, or if typing is not your forte, feel free to unmute. And you can come off your camera muting, whatever, turning your camera
back.
off. Yeah.
Let's come on back, everybody.
I probably recognize some of the faces.
You might.
Is there anybody that worked with me on the I Want to Work group?
We had a couple, but I don't think they came to Harrisburg.
I met with a number, Josie, if you remember. Met quite a few times.
Sent them pouring. Yes, we did.
We did. But there was a great team with you sometimes. There was one particular guy. Oh, I wish I could remember his name now. He was so good.
Was he a wheelchair user or was he Puerto Rican?
No, he was mobile. And I found him to be very articulate
there was William Del Toro was fabulous.
I think that's who it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you tell him I said hello if you ever
I will.
He was
okay. We do have a question. How do you best get the legislator to be willing to make an appointment to see you? That's a good question.
Oh, get to know the aides and the assistants. If you want to, in fact, it worked. I happen to have excellent people working with me all the time I was in the legislature, and they truly understood their job. So when people physically stopped in, I wasn't available. That really works, by the way. Just the friendly interaction between those two. There's nothing wrong with bringing a cup of coffee or stopping with a couple cookies and saying, I'd love to see the legislator whenever, in my case, he or she has time. The easiest way to get an appointment, unless it's your own legislator, my people all 64,000 of them could call me anytime, and we'd set up an appointment. But calling to make an appointment, stop in ahead to make an appointment, and definitely get to know the aides, assistants, or secretaries, no matter how it's set up.
Excellent. Thank you. We have another question. How do you develop the key ingredients to get them to relate to your issue? So I think you mentioned a few. One is finding those people that connect. But I think that the question here relates back to, what if your legislator doesn't have that key knowledge or experience that makes it automatic, yep, bam, they got it. So what connects them?
You mean on a particular issue or just getting them engaged with you?
I would
Because if you have a
say,
particular issue, you just flat out ask them, if this isn't something you have a lot of experience with, can you recommend another legislator or the chairman of a committee that would be handling the issue that you're trying to promote? You need to get what you need through your legislator.
and I think you
Maybe
both.
I can
Oh,
jump
go ahead,
in for a
Donna,
second.
please.
I think a personal story
Mhm.
it is always compelling, even if it's not a story that that legislator has a direct relationship with. If it's a personal story that that individual has experienced that relates to the issue, you can make a connection with the person you're meeting with. And then, to Maury's next point about, all right, maybe it's not that legislator's cup of tea directly, then you can say, and I understand this isn't something you work on a lot, but are there other legislators that you know of that might be interested in this issue? I need your support, but I also need someone who can carry this banner for me. Can you give me some suggestions? And try it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Very
And
good.
I think kind of related to that question is, how do you connect with a legislator if they only want to hear about their issues? The example is farming. There's a legislator, a senator who's my senator as well, who his focus is farming. How do you get them to hear outside of their focus?
Well, especially if the individual is at a chairmanship level,
Mm-hmm.
if they're the chairman of ag, their days, nights, weekends are full of ag issues. So, and they're also managing all of the bills related to agriculture that run in their committee. So again, if you're one of their voters, you're one of their constituents, then it is very appropriate that you sit down and talk to them and use that as Donna just said, try to make a personal connection, putting a face and name and experience on the issue to at least get that person interested enough to help you find somebody who will walk the walk with you. If it's not a chairman, if it's someone serving on ag, they're certainly working on other issues as well. And you ought to be able to get them engaged by the same methods of, stories that are going to touch their heart or touch their intellect or touch something that makes them interested enough to hear more. I think it does depend on their responsibilities too within the legislature. So,
Yeah.
and ag people really know their ag stuff. I have to tell you, that was what I knew the least about when many years ago, and I picked their brains all the time.
Yeah.
Josie, find one of their friends that has that issue. Whatever your issue is, right? Find someone who is one of their personal friends who has that issue.
So beyond illegal stalking, how do you do that?
Well, talk to people.
Yeah, exactly.
You talk to people.
Again,
you're in their district, right? So you talk to people who talk to people who talk to people who know them, and see if you can't find someone who knows them well enough that they can talk to them about your issue.
The district office staff is invaluable in that particular sense. The ones that work out in the district that know everybody, rather than the folks in Harrisburg who are limited by their geography of where they work. But the folks in the district also know a lot of people. And my district office staff, when they met with people, if people walked in there and talked about getting an appointment with me, believe me, they knew the whole story, and they had ongoing relationships with these people. And especially if they were constituents, my staff would make sure that I took care of it.
Okay, we have two last questions because we do need to wrap this up. Okay, one is some of these individuals on this call are amazing. They're all amazing. You guys are all amazing. I didn't mean to say that. Like
Believe
some
that.
of you are connected more to your legislators, and some you've not really got the chance to work with them. What are the first steps? You know, if they don't know an aide, if they don't know the legislator, what's the first step to like connect with that legislator or an aide?
Call them
Well,
up.
we call them up. That's what we
Call 'em
talked
up
about that.
and
Either or
set 'em
show
up.
up. Show up in a district office. Just to say hello and talk about, the possibility of getting some time with the legislator, talk about an issue. Call and just officially ask for an appointment.
Yeah, I mean, I think today now in this day and age, of course, Mara, you can't just show up, but
oh no, I'm talking pre and post COVID.
right, but you can call, I think, and ask if you can get some time with an aide, but you need to have it. I think it's kind of important to have an ask, of some kind that you want to discuss something in particular at this time too, because of everyone being so kind of crazy busy. But that's what I would do, and see if you can get a virtual meeting, with someone in the office.
And last question. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, Donna just brought that to mind. I guess because I want to think we can operate normally, and of course we can't. So the answers to your questions right now are a little different. It would have to be virtual, which is never the same as being it's not the same level of engagement as being in the same room and reading body language and
right,
looking eye to eye. There's nothing going to replace that. But yes, you are right now, you're going to have to make the phone call, see if you can set something up virtually. Most of all, pray that this is over soon so we can all begin to function as normally as we can.
That's right. That's right. So last question. There are a good number of legislators who do not think that disability issues are necessarily issues that affect their constituents, or that's not their topic. What do we do as individuals or as a community to support legislators in recognizing the importance and how much it does affect their constituents?
Well, it does. You know that. I know that. And I think that goes more in line with the work that Donna has done with her work since she's left the Senate. What type of advice do you have, Donna, for them as a constituency, not a voting constituency, but organizational?
Yeah,
operation?
I mean, I think it is part of a global effort, Josie, working on paid leave and finding an issue where you can show how important a particular issue is to the community, the disability community. I think that's kind of how you have to come at it, and having that resonance with I mean, God love all of us, and particularly the disability community. I mean, there's legislators that don't think COVID is a thing.
Mhm.
I mean, good God, they're. I don't work there anymore, so I guess I'm allowed to say they're idiots. I mean, so you got to deal with what you got to deal with, but you just got to keep up the good fight.
That's right.
Continue to hammer at it, and I think the best thing to do is to come at it with important issues, and then let them know that this will make a real impact on your community.
And when you do find someone to work with in the legislature, you can identify a champion or two that, like, if I, maybe I wasn't in a position to help with that particular legislation because of my other leadership roles, but you could always count on me to find the right person, you know, to work with you. Listen, networking is important everywhere. So you just have to get it started and then, you know, build on that. But on a global perspective, I understand that, Josie. I'm on the ARC board. I know what we deal with there. Just trying to get the recognition of what we can provide and the need for it. So I'm with you 100% on that.
Ladies, I am so grateful for you all to be on this call tonight. I wish we had another hour to just dedicate to you two. We've already learned so much, but I need to wrap it up. We have some more training to do. You guys are more than welcome to stay.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on. Do you mind if I share your bios with our participants?
No, not at all.
Okay, super. Okay, thank you
Good luck
both.
to everybody. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Yes, you too. Bye, guys.
Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
Okay, friends. Okay, friends. So moving on, I know that all of our speakers are so great and also really great at speaking too. And so I'm really glad we had that, but we are going to make a quick shift over to our trainers, Allie and Everett, for our next piece of the training puzzle.
Yes, thank you very much, Josie. I was saying, I had texted Everett on the side because I was saying, man, it's so nice when we have no idea what the speakers are necessarily going to say exactly, but when it is in line with what we're going to be training you guys on, it's really nice because we get to kind of reiterate all of these things that they were talking about and all of that great information, and try to hopefully package it a little bit nicely for you guys. I know we always constantly feel like we're rushing. However, it's because we have a lot of great things to talk about. And we are, I think, still going to, at this point, are you seeing the slideshow, everyone?
No. It's not up yet.
And Allie and Ev, if we need to cut the group down to 5 minutes, do it.
Okay.
Do you want me to share? You got it, Allie.
I got it. I just didn't actually hit share.
Oh. You spend all day on Zoom.
I spend all day long on Zoom and still.
And they're seeing the presenter view, or they're seeing your.
I know. I have to hit
okay.
That's what I accidentally did. I hit this before I hit share, and then.
You got it. I think they know us by now, right?
Now, are you seeing the actual PowerPoint or my presenter mode?
Presenter mode.
Presenter mode.
How about now?
There we go.
All right.
So now we're moving.
We are going to try to have you all split up in your regional groups because we want you guys to be really relying on your regional coordinators. We're talking about relationships today. We want you guys to be building relationships with one another, to use each other as resources and as networks. So we are going to try to do our part to make that happen for you. I think that, Everett, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like we could get through this in a good 10, 12 minutes maybe.
Yeah, because I also think that our speakers did a great job of kind of touching on a lot of this. It'll be review, but we do have some other things in here that might be of help too.
Absolutely.
But I think we can move.
I have a question. Are breakout rooms another Zoom link? Like, how do you get into them?
Don't you worry. I will, by a click of a button, I will send you anywhere you want to go. So when we get there, you'll just appear in a new place.
Yep. So. It's not a separate link. It's just another button that you press. It'll come up on your screen, and then you'll go where Josie put you.
All right.
It's really fun.
All right.
I don't know if I would say fun going to bed.
All right, go ahead.
I digress. All right. So hopefully you guys are getting used to the structure of how we do these PowerPoints. It's our little teacher trick to kind of get you guys engaged and used to what we're doing here. So we always want to talk about, from the last month until now, and what we've accomplished so far. So we're kind of talking about adjusting your method of communication and how you can make your message more effective in a variety of different modalities or different ways that you can kind of send out your message. Now we're going to talk about how communicating in those different ways can help us actually build relationships with these change makers. So how do we really use these skills to make change, right? So again, we want to have our checklist so that you guys see that even though this feels, sometimes like we meet and it's awesome, and then there's a lot of time in between, we're really accomplishing a lot. So you've already drafted a story. Hopefully you're completing or soon to be completing your different method of telling your story. And now we're going to be focusing on that building relationships piece.
And if you haven't gotten to all of this yet, we are going to, sorry to cut you off, Allie, but we're going to talk about what we're going to do next month to kind of continue to help move everybody forward in the process, because getting those stories ready and the other methods of stories are only going to help you do this piece, which is about building relationships, which is really, really important.
Yes. So today we're going to focus on why it's important.
Yep.
What are the components of navigating relationships? A before, during, and after kind of look at this meeting that we talked about. Creating long-term relationships. I can't remember the term that one of the ladies used. I think they might have said the long game, and I like that too. A little bit of a sports reference. But that's what we're going to talk about towards the end. And as we're really talking about, I think in a lot of the questions, how do we navigate some of these negative maybe attitudes or negative responses that we're getting?
Or like so-so responses, right? Like one that might be like somebody that doesn't really get what you're saying and maybe doesn't want to, right?
Yes, because that's definitely a part of all of this, which is why I think a few people had those types of questions. So we'll definitely touch on that as well. So first things first, Ev, why is this important?
So change makers receive lots of information, questions, and requests, right? So the ladies talked about this already, how people are so busy and they're hit from all angles with meetings, questions, and requests. But how can you make sure that you, in your ask or your meeting or your time, how can you make it stick out? Which is part of the reason why I've been working on drafting your story and creating ways to showcase yourself and your story in a way that gets your point and your issue across. But relationships create opportunities for collaboration or working together, right? You build trust and you can create dialogue, which means conversation, and you can inform and develop plans. So once you have a relationship and you have trust, that's when you can start to create a conversation and a real relationship that can last for the long game or for a long term.
Mm-hmm. And I think something that they mentioned is so important, which is this fact that there are so many issues and so many people and so many tasks that they have to do on a daily basis, that it really just isn't about your bill, so to speak, or your issue. It's about you creating a relationship so that you stand out, so that you're not just another person that's coming to ask something, but you are Everett coming to ask for something, right? We want them to know us.
Well, and not to go ahead, Allie, but not to toot Josie's horn, but you heard them both say how they know her.
Yep.
Right. They know Josie because of the work that she's done, the stories that she shared, the people that she's brought along, and the network that she's created. So it isn't just someone coming to ask, it's Josie coming to ask. And so that's not to toot your horn, Josie, but that is true in this sense.
So what are the different parts of sort of navigating these relationships? Just like any relationship in our lives, we have sort of the beginning of it and then a longer term piece to our relationship. So the pieces that we're going to talk about tonight are this meeting that we've said probably 1,000 times, And then that longer game or the long-term relationship. So when we talk about the meeting, it's typically the first step, that introductory piece of you and, whatever issue you might be talking about. Especially now, this can include calls or virtual meetings. Ideally, we can get back to a place where we're doing in-person meetings as well. Sometimes this is a bit more formal, especially just because it's new and it's just an introduction. Whereas the long-term relationship, this is staying in contact beyond your ask. So this isn't just, well, I have a long-term relationship because every time I have an issue, I'm going to come back and ask them something. This is about all that in between time, and the work that you have to put in order to make change. And that's going to really create some more ongoing and more effective dialogue as well, or conversations. So now, Ev, do you want to talk about the before the meeting?
Yeah, so we're gonna do this like before, during, and after. So before the meeting, and they literally just said this before they got off this call. The lady said, building a relationship with their aides and staffers, right? Knowing those people to help you arrange that visit, and get connected. And it might be the first time you're ever doing that, but it's really, really important then to be polite and have an idea. You want to do your research, identify who your representative is, identify who the legislator is, know the issue that you want to talk about. In our case, in most cases, it's the Family Care Act, right? Learn about that person that you're going to be meeting. Look at previously held positions. What positions do they hold now? What is their social media like? All right, a lot of legislators have Twitter, Facebook, and I think if they're really awesome, they might have an Instagram. Okay, look at what they're championing and find a way to connect with them. It could be as simple as you're both Eagles fans, right? That can be a way to connect when you're doing your research.
Yeah. And something extremely important that we didn't directly highlight here, but that was mentioned during our speakers, is when we say know the issue or know your ask, that's knowing all aspects of it. So not just what you're asking, but what are other people asking that are related to your position? What is the opposition to what you're asking? Don't just know your facts as it relates directly, but everything surrounding it as well. That's really important.
So what about after what about during the meeting, Allie? Sorry.
Yeah. So I think this is, could be a very nervous time, especially if it's the first time you've ever done this. But I think our ladies that were our speakers mentioned a lot of this. Probably one of the most important things is to be timely. And we mean that in a couple different ways. So arriving on time is a given, right? But also using your time very wisely, that being efficient in what you're talking about. And that, I think, really related to the 3 C's, right? Clear, which we have at next, right? Being clear about your position, being concise, being very efficient in what you're saying, saying as much as you need to in as few of words, and comprehensive. So making sure that they fully understand what you're asking. Another thing that we have here is to listen and answer questions. Ideally, this is not a speech that you're providing to somebody, but really creating a conversation with them about this issue that's very important to you, about your experiences and their understanding of that. So that needs to have some give and take with those conversations. Provide an ask and plan for a follow-up. So we want to think about how you're going to frame your ask, what exactly you are going to ask them. Again, those C's, make sure it's clear and concise. Make sure it's attainable. So we don't want to ask for $1 bajillion to save the world, right? We want to make sure that we're thinking about the fiscal responsibility of those things and what can we do that's attainable. Outline the benefits to them. They talked about saying how this could affect all of their constituents, making those lines and making those connections for them. Then there's also the follow-up. So not the follow-up after the meeting quite yet, but during the meeting, tell them how you can support them in supporting this issue and explain when and how you're going to follow up. So you're setting the stage for Everett.
After the meeting, where you want to share the information you got with other interest groups. You want to let people know, hey, I met with my legislator and they definitely support my issue. But you definitely want to follow up the way that you told them you're going to. If you said, hey, I'm going to send you an email in 2 weeks and just let you know how I'm doing and see how things are going. And then as you can, you want to provide additional support or information as agreed to during the meeting, right? If that's, hey, I'm going to get you some more statistics, or I'm going to get you some more stories that highlight what I'm talking about here. And you want to make sure you get that to them the way you said you're going to. Because one of the biggest ways to build relationships is to do what you say and follow through on what you promised.
Absolutely. We can't expect them to follow through for us if we're not willing to follow through for them as well.
Sure.
So some key components of the long game or the long-term relationship, the best relationships, again, in life, but especially in this, are bi-directional, meaning that it's just as much a benefit for them as it is for you, right? And that there's some give and take there. So make sure that you're asking for actionable steps from them, things that they can, in fact, follow through on, and create opportunities where you can be supporting them as well. I think that there was a question up there about being relatable and personal without feeling as though it's too inspirational or empty feeling. I think that really comes from that relationship building and making it meaningful for them and important. Don't just reach out when you need something. I think that's so important in networking in general. They're humans too. You know, this is their job, but they're also people. So ask about how they're doing in all of this. Share that connector information that you found out when you were doing research. Maybe you read an article or some interesting fact about the issue you're talking about. Ask them if you can send them that information in an email just to kind of keep that flow of communication going. So now we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit, and I already went over the amount that we promised. So we're going to kind of go through these and hopefully continue those conversations in your regional breakout rooms. So the first thing we're going to talk about when navigating negative responses is if they really just don't support your cause, which a lot of you mentioned. Go ahead, Ev.
No, go ahead.
So we want to kind of create this open dialogue where you can continue to discuss the issue. So say that you go to your legislator and they seem that they're only interested in farming. Well, how can we start to maybe get into some of their interests and leave room for us to talk about our issues as well? So again, with that, using their perspective so to support your side of things. Maybe you talk about how the farmers in your area are also going to likely experience disability at some point in their life. You know, finding those ways to connect what they care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Ed.
And what if they're not a disability ally? You know, someone that we feel, quote unquote, gets it, right? Decide how you want to and need to frame your own disability, your own experience, and you want to meet them where they are. And this can be really difficult, right? Because you want to be meeting with someone that gets you. Everybody wants that in a relationship, is somebody that understands you. But the reality is not everybody does. And sometimes we have to let people learn from us. And as an advocate, that's one of the biggest things that you can do is offer the resources, help them understand things, let them ask questions. And they might ask a question you go, man, that was a really weird question, or that was odd. But if you can answer their questions and help them feel like you're being supportive of them, it may open a door to them supporting you and others in our situation in the future.
Absolutely. So this is also, I think, an interesting negative, so to speak, response that you might get, where you get into these meetings, you're excited, we're telling you to have these conversations that have back and forth dialogue, and they either talk too much or too little. So what do? Well, if they're talking too much and you feel like you're not being able to get your own message across, it's a little communication trick where you try to find things that they're saying to continue to interject your own point. So if somebody starts talking about something that feels off topic to what you're trying to get across, I might try to pull one of those pieces of information and somehow twist it into what I want to talk about again. If they're talking too little, you want to be really open to the fact that they seem very busy. You want to get your key points across and reschedule. So you can even say, listen, I know this is an incredibly busy time for you. This is very important to me, and I'm going to try my hardest to get my key points across to you. I would love to reschedule when you have some extra time. Find ways to ask and talk about more direct questions relating to your points. So kind of shortening your ask and shortening your talk as you're going, if you recognize that as well. So I don't know if somebody was monitoring the chat, but I kept seeing the comment box flickering. So let me know
about farming accidents, I think, and about connecting with farmers that don't really get it. Yeah.
Yes. I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing anything.
No,
Well, no,
I mean,
and it was a great idea, right? That somebody might actually have had an accident that is farming related, and that could be a way to connect with folks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just like last time, we have another survey that we want you guys to be doing, just so that we can continue to try to make this as positive of an experience as we can for you all. I'm going to briefly talk about the homework, and I'm not sure if we're going to break out into rooms, but continue to try to talk to your regional coordinators about this. We're hopefully providing more and more guidance on that. So they're really, your lifeline, your resources, as well as Josie and us too. So it's 2 parts, but we think that this, again, we're getting really into the meat of things. So hang with us. And your homework sheet itself will have even more directions on all of this and really guide you guys through this. But essentially, we're asking you to do some research on the change makers in your area and find some information on them. And then we want you to try your best to write an email, letter, whatever the case may be, to include an ask and one way that you're going to follow up with them. So again, that piece will be in your homework sheet itself, and there will be more specific guides to what you need to do, and your regional facilitators can help you with that as well.
Josie, is there anything that we missed in our rapid fire greatness?
You did a great job. I've been really cutting you guys short. I'm sorry. Okay, so are these emails were actually okay? I'm trying to answer questions, and
do you want me to go over? Do you want me to go over the homework, Joes?
That might be the best use. So, okay, couple little things, friends. So one, we know that you and many of your colleagues on this call, and probably those of us speaking, are under a lot of pressure. Stress, coronavirus, end of semesters, housing, there's so much going on, folks. And so some of you have openly come to us and said, hey, I'm struggling. And I really, really appreciate you doing that, because if you're struggling, then probably there's many other people who are. And so we are asking you to do this third piece of homework, which is writing this letter. Heather, as you mentioned, it is at this point a mock email. And so what we're going to ask is for you to write, dear legislator, dear change maker. But then I am doing my homework and identifying all of each region/county's legislators and their email addresses. Because we are in an election year, there are quite a few new people. And so I am still actively finalizing that list for all of you. So I'm going to say in a week, I will personally email you the list of legislators. Okay, and you're gonna have to scroll down it, and you're gonna have to find your county and figure out which legislator is yours. I'll send you those instructions next week. But in the meanwhile, we are asking you to write this mock email that will probably in February become a real email. Once we have every new legislator's email addresses and everything, we expect you guys to send them along with, utilizing part of your story. And if you decide to do something artistic, attaching all of that onto it, or a video, because everything you do here is going to build to the next step. Okay, so I'm going to turn back to Allie about this homework.
Sure. So Ali mentioned that the homework we're building this as more of like a guide that you almost kind of follow the questions and it takes you to where you need to go. And Josie's going to supplement this or add her list to this also. But we're asking you to identify 2 to 3 change makers. In this case, we want you to look directly at legislators, and we actually put directions on where to find yours. While there is a lot of new people coming into office, the reality is that some people are staying the same. So we literally put screenshots of what you'll see on the website, and you can see here that you can actually locate your person by name, their district number, or your county, or even by your address. You can just punch in where you live, and the people that you're looking for will come up. But I would also wait for Josie's email to see if there's any changes. Once you know who those people are, we have a couple questions for you to answer. What is their political affiliation? So what party do they belong to? What issues do they support? You can you can Google them in the news. You can find articles, look at their social media. A lot of them have their own websites, okay? So you can look and kind of find out, what do they care about? What is their job? What are things about them that you can relate to? Again, I put in here a favorite sports team, where they grew up, people that both of you may know, right? Maybe you have similar jobs or degrees, went to the same place. For example, Maury lives in Lebanon County, right? I was born and raised in Lebanon. I know her. She doesn't know that, but if I were to have to talk to her, I'd be like, hey, I'm one of your constituents, right? Or I was one of your constituents, right? Write down points that you would like to make about why the family character is important to you. This is where you want to be using your first 2 homework assignments. And if you haven't completed them yet, work on them, and you can kind of use that to build this, to understand what's most important. Then you want to write 2 to 3 sentences about yourself that you could share with your legislator. So you're writing out why the family character is so important, and then 2 to 3 sentences about yourself that you could share with them. This kind of helps you introduce yourself, share a brief bit of what your story is or who you are and what you stand for. Using all that above information, you can then use this to do that mock email or a letter that you will send to your trail guide, and they can provide you some feedback. So your facilitator in your region is ready and willing to share some feedback about what you write. And so, but like Josie said, eventually we're hoping these become real living, breathing emails that can be sent out in February. So, but we want to give you some time, if you need more time, to develop your story and your creative piece and doing this email into the next month. So I don't know, Josie, if you want to talk about that a little bit more, just to make sure everybody's clear on that.
Okay, so the only thing I want to share is, once again, we know you guys have been working really hard. We also know that this is not the only thing you're doing. And so in the month of January, you're going to be using it as a catch-up month. And so, as I mentioned, we would love for you to have your month 1, 2, and 3 done before January, but we're hoping to use January as a cleanup. If there was an assignment you missed, if there's a piece you'd like feedback on and clarifying, we want to use January for that. And so if you're behind or freaking out, don't. We will work with
Sure.
you. Let us know and we'll support you. I
So
know that we're already over time.
Yeah, and I just want to say we are going to meet again in January. I just want to make sure everybody
Yes.
here's that double triple. We are still going to meet, and Allie and I are literally going to go over some of the things that we've already been over the first 3 months, and kind of provide support that way with everybody that's here to support everybody to get to that finish line, hopefully, and get everything they need in place.
I think the idea too, then in January, we would have more time to meet as a region as well, to provide maybe a little bit more direct support at the time of the actual meeting. So
Yes, actually, we canceled our speaker for that month, which I think is actually better because we need to spend that time working together.
So next meeting will be a working meeting, pretty much. And
a
supporting it.
talking and collaborative meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess I should take the professor hat off and say it's a collaboration and working together time.
If you want to get feedback, where can you guys, do we send that to you or send that to the regional coordinators, or do we have to wait till January?
All of that.
Yeah, I mean,
Good, Ellie.
that is fine. Are you talking about specifically the survey that I mentioned, Laura?
No, I mean feedback, if we want to get feedback on the assignment.
Oh, if you want to get feedback, yeah. So definitely, I think asking any of us directly, but specifically your regional coordinator as well. Especially if you have, I think if you guys have specific questions about your assignments, your regional coordinators would love to hear those specific questions. We're here supporting them as well, so it'll get back to us one way or another. I've had a couple people just ask me to read over their stories. I think we've had some of that too. So it's up to you.
And once again, we are literally here to make you successful. And so I would say first line is your regional facilitator. And then, second line is myself, Allie, Everett, not because we don't want to, but because I know we're all going to be reading all of the assignments. So, taking level 1, level 2 will probably make it a little bit easier on all of us. Okay, so
Mark said, what if I'm an expert already?
Mark, you are an expert and you have an expert mom.
Then share your knowledge with other people, dude.
That's right.
That's why we're hoping to get these groups together, because we know there's a lot of you experts on the call, and a lot of us that are still learning. So we really want us all to be helping one another, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, you all are the best. Seriously, thanks for sticking it out with us.
We are not going to do the breakout rooms. However, I will stay on if any of you want to stay on and ask questions about what we've talked about the homework, about anything. Please feel free to stay on. This will come out in an email directly following this. And so fill out the survey, watch it, the homework's attached, watch for the list of legislators that will be coming your way. And if I don't talk to you before, have a great holiday. Goodness, I can't believe we're saying that. Okay.
I know.
Yes, and Laura, I just wanted to add, and for anybody in the West, if you need any help looking over anything, I'm available to assist with that also. Really, anybody. If you need anything looked over or have questions, you can also email me.
I was just going to echo what Kelly said too. Anybody in the East, if you haven't reached out to me, a lot of you I've already talked to and been working with, which I'm happy to say that. But if you guys still need help, just like Kelly said, I'm here as well. So please reach out, please reach out, please reach out. We're here.
Yes, definitely.
thank you. And I know Bob from Central is the same. Like, we are here for you. We are supporting you. Let us know. So everyone wants to get off and go, I don't know, celebrate the holidays. I don't know. Something, go to bed, whatever, do it. If you want to stay on top about the homework, I'm here for you. And trainers, facilitators, you rock. So thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, Lauren.
Bye, Josie.
Bye.
Thank you, Josie.
Bye.
Lester, why have you not been with us? We missed you.
I've been around.
Been around. Yeah.
I've been around. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Question.
Thank you, Laura Captioner. You can get off whenever. Thank you so much.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, it's
Hi,
actually
Erica.
Erica, but I teach all day, so the computer has my name in.
That's
I'm
okay.
another one who Zooms all day.
I